My name is Warren Sharp, and this is Sharp Football Analysis. Today, we're going to be breaking down some of the top quarterbacks in the 2026 NFL draft class. We're going to be going over some of their strengths and their weaknesses and where some of these players might be selected in the upcoming NFL draft. As a reminder, if you want more information just like this, head over to sharp.football, join the newsletter. We're going to be releasing our 2026 draft kit very soon, so you're not going to want to miss that. Go ahead and subscribe to the newsletter to get all the details. Let's dive into the very first prospect. Cade Klubnik is one of the most deceptive quarterback evaluations in this class because when you look at his production, he looks like he took a step back. But when you really dig in, the story is a lot more complicated. In 2024, Klubnik threw 36 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions and looked like he was trending towards being one of the top quarterbacks in this draft. But in 2025, that number dropped to 16 touchdowns with the very same number of interceptions. The immediate reaction is regression, but the underlying data tells you that 2024 was actually more likely the outlier. His completion percentage, depth of target, and yards per attempt all stayed relatively consistent across both seasons. What changed, however, was his touchdown rate, which dropped from 7.4% in 2024 to 4.1% last year. That kind of swing usually points more to variance than a complete drop-off in ability. Physically, Klubnik does not have elite size at 6'2", 207 pounds, but he brings something that a lot of quarterbacks in this class do not, which is functional mobility. He has a 63rd percentile rushing profile, and more importantly, he knows how to use it to avoid negative plays. Despite being pressured on over a third of his dropbacks, he had one of the lowest sack rates under pressure in this class. He also shows flashes when things break down. His big-time throw rate under pressure ranks near the top of this class, which tells you there is some playmaking ability when the structure isn't perfect. At the same time, the consistency just has not been there. His career yards per attempt ranks near the bottom of this class, and the situational production dropped off significantly this past season. On third downs, he went from leading the class in touchdown rate in 2024 to the lowest rate of any quarterback in 2025. In the red zone, his efficiency was cut in half, from a 24% touchdown rate in 2024 to just 11% last year. The overall evaluation with Klubnik comes down to whether you believe the flashes can become the norm. He has experience, he is young, and he offers enough mobility to extend plays and avoid sacks. But until he proves he can consistently execute in high leverage situations, he projects more as a developmental starter. If the efficiency stabilizes, there is a path to a long-term role, but if it does not, he risks setting in as a high-end backup who can give you flashes, but struggles to sustain drive. Quarterback Garrett Nussmeier is one of the most difficult evaluations of any player in this class, and it's because the player that we saw in 2024 versus the player we saw in 2025 are two totally different players. In 2024, he looked like a breakout star. He threw 29 touchdowns, averaged over 311 yards per game, and showed the kind of arm talent that put him firmly on the NFL radar. But this past season, everything took a step back. Nussmeier threw just 12 touchdowns and averaged only 214 yards per game across 9 appearances before his season was cut short. And the key detail here is that he was playing through an abdominal injury that he said dated back to fall camp, which clearly impacted his ability to push the ball down the field. When you watch the tape, that limitation showed up. At the same time, the environment around him also got worse. LSU lost multiple offensive linemen and key pass catchers to the NFL last year, and his drop rate jumped to 8.5%. Protection became an issue, and that showed up in his under pressure numbers. He took a sack on 19% of his pressures, nearly double his rate from the previous season. So there are explanations for his regression last year, but even when you zoom out, there are still concerns that go beyond just the injury. Nussmeier is a smaller pocket passer at just 6'2" and 203 pounds. And while he has a live arm, the efficiency metrics are not strong. His career touchdown to interception ratio sits in the 30th percentile, and his yards per attempt is in that same range. He also does not offer much outside of structure. He has the lowest scramble rate in this entire class and ranks near the bottom in rushing production, so there is very little mobility to fall back on when the pocket breaks down. That puts a lot of pressure on him to win strictly from the pocket. Now, one factor working in his favor is his background. As the son of an NFL offensive coordinator, he has grown up around pro systems, and that experience will matter to teams during the evaluation process. But ultimately, the takeaway here is that Nussmeier is a developmental quarterback with clear arm talent, but also a narrow margin for error. He is older than some of the other quarterbacks in this class, offers less as a runner, and is coming off of a season where both his production and efficiency declined. So if you're drafting him early, you're betting that the 2024 version of Garrett Nussmeier is the real one, and that the 2025 season was more about circumstance than limitation. Drew Allar might be the most polarizing quarterback of any in this quarterback class. The question really comes down to one thing. Are you betting on traits or production? Because physically, he looks exactly like what the NFL wants. He is 6'5" tall, 228 pounds, and has a big-time arm, and is the youngest quarterback in this class. When you watch him throw, the tools are obvious. The ball jumps out of his hand, and there are flashes where he looks like a future franchise quarterback. But the issue with Allar has never been the flashes, it's been the lack of consistency. His 2025 season was cut short after just 6 games due to an ankle injury, and even before that, the production did not match the traits. He averaged just 6.9 yards per attempt against a very soft early schedule, and across his entire career, averaged just 7.4 yards per attempt, which is in the 27th percentile historically. Situationally, the concerns show up even more. On 3rd and 4th downs, he completed just 50% of his passes this past season, which was the lowest rate of any quarterback in this entire draft class. In high leverage moments throughout his career, the efficiency tends to drop, and you can see it in the biggest games. In 2 starts against Ohio State, he completed under 49% of his passes and averaged just 5.4 yards per attempt. In the postseason last year, across 4 games, he completed just over 51% of his throws. Those are the moments where you want to see a quarterback elevate, and that has not consistently shown up on tape for Allar. At the same time, there are still reasons that evaluators are intrigued. His touchdown to interception ratio for his career is an excellent 4.7 touchdowns to 1 interception, which ranks in the 92nd percentile. He also brings more mobility than people realize, with an 11% scramble rate last season and 12 rushing touchdowns over his career. So there is functional athleticism to work with. The overall evaluation with Allar comes down to projection. If a team believes his development was held back by system or coaching, then you are looking at a young quarterback with elite size, arm talent, and enough mobility to unlock more at the next level. But if the inconsistency we have seen is who he is, then you are drafting a quarterback who struggles when the game speeds up and who has not consistently delivered in high-pressure situations. That is why he's one of the most volatile prospects at the position. Ty Simpson might be the most difficult quarterback evaluation of the entire 2026 NFL draft. Because if you only watched the first half of his 2025 season, you were definitely looking at a legitimate quarterback 1 candidate. Through 8 games, Simpson completed nearly 68% of his passes, averaged 8.4 yards per attempt, and threw 20 touchdowns to only 1 interception. He had multiple touchdown passes in every single game, and there were real conversations about him being in the same tier as Fernando Mendoza. But the second half of the season told a completely different story. Over his final 7 games, his completion rate dropped to 60%. His efficiency fell to 6.5 yards per attempt, and he threw just 8 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. In 5 of those games, he threw 1 or fewer touchdown passes. Now, context does matter because Simpson was dealing with multiple injuries down the stretch, including a back issue, elbow bursitis, and even a fractured rib by the end of the year. He also reportedly lost around 20 pounds during the season due to illness. And on top of that, Alabama's run game struggled and his supporting cast took a step back, including wide receiver Ryan Williams. There are real reasons for his decline. But when you zoom out, the evaluation still comes back to projection and uncertainty. Simpson enters the draft with just 523 career pass attempts. That is an extremely small sample size for a potential first-round quarterback. Historically, players drafted with that little experience have had very mixed results in the NFL, especially when they do not bring high-end rushing ability to offset it. And Simpson is a traditional pocket passer. When you look at the data against strong competition, it is solid but not overwhelming. Against power conference opponents, he ranked outside the top 10 in both on-target rate and yards per attempt within this quarterback class. He also struggled to consistently punish pressure. When he was blitzed, he averaged just 6.8 yards per attempt, and under pressure, that dropped down to 5.9 yards per attempt. Both marks were near the bottom of this quarterback group. From a physical standpoint, he does not have overwhelming traits either. At just 6 foot 1 inch and 211 pounds, he does not have the prototypical size, and he does not rely on off-script playmaking the way that other quarterbacks in that range have. And only 6 quarterbacks since 2000 have been selected in the first round with fewer pass attempts than Simpson. What he does offer, however, is experience in a more translatable offensive structure. He operated under center more than any quarterback in this class and had one of the lowest RPO rates, which gives him a cleaner projection into an NFL-style system. So the takeaway with Ty Simpson is you're betting on traits that showed up early while hoping the late season regression was driven more by circumstance than limitation. The overwhelming favorite to be drafted number 1 overall by the Las Vegas Raiders in the upcoming 2026 NFL Draft is quarterback Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. The Heisman Trophy winner just led Indiana to a 16-0 season and a national championship. Physically, he checks every box. He's 6 foot 5 inches, 236 pounds, and operates comfortably within structure. What separates him is how consistently accurate he is when he plays on schedule. He completed 72% of his passes last season, which ranks in the 94th percentile historically. He also posted a 41-6 touchdown to interception ratio and averaged 9.3 yards per attempt, both elite marks compared to past prospects. A class-high 79% of his throws were on target in 2025. The situational production is even more impressive. In the red zone over his career, Mendoza threw just 1 interception, 1, on 139 career dropbacks. This past season, he had 26 touchdowns and 0 interceptions inside of the red zone. On 3rd and 4th downs, he led this entire class with a 75% on-target rate and a 15% touchdown rate, while still pushing the ball downfield at nearly 11 yards per attempt. This is a quarterback who consistently delivers in high-leverage moments. At the same time, there are real questions about how his game translates. Indiana's offense leaned heavily into RPO concepts, with over 23% of his dropbacks coming on those designs, by far the highest rate for any quarterback in this class. The next closest quarterback was down at 16%. He also benefited from the lowest drop rate in this class. Some of Mendoza's concerns become especially relevant when you project him to the Raiders under Cade Klubnik, where the offense is built around under-center play action and more traditional NFL structure. Klubnik's quarterbacks the last 2 years both ranked top 5 in rate of passes from under center, topping out at 55% of all passes coming from under center dropbacks. In his 3 college seasons combined, Mendoza had just 6 dropbacks from under center. 6. That said, he also has the highest on-target throw rate on deep 20-plus air yard passes of any quarterbacks in this class, something that his new head coach, Cade Klubnik, can definitely take advantage of off of play action. Mendoza played his share of tough opponents last year, squaring off against top 10 defenses 5 times while still delivering 65% completions 8.3 yards per attempt, and a 9-3 touchdown versus interception ratio against those defenses. The overall takeaway with Mendoza is that he offers one of the highest floors in this draft class. He is accurate, composed, and highly effective when the play unfolds as designed. The question is how much more he can create when things break down, and how quickly he can adjust to a different offensive structure at the next level. If that transition goes smoothly, he has the profile of a long-term starting quarterback who can consistently win games. If you want more draft analysis just like this, make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss another video.